Kosovo votes and the stakes go far beyond local councils. As municipal elections unfold across 38 towns, the ruling Vetevendosje party eyes control of the capital, Pristina, amid deep political tensions and frozen ties with Serbia. With ethnic division still shaping the ballot and coalition talks stalled, this vote could redefine Kosovo's political future. And now joining me to discuss here on World News Tonight is Ivana Stradner, Research Fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Hello, Ivana, and thank you so much for joining us on World News Tonight.
Always pleasure.
Yeah, so we hear that these municipal elections have effects that go far beyond just the local officials. Now, for you, what is at stake in these elections?
To begin with, normally such elections would not make big news, but you're right that these elections are very, very important because even many in the West criticized for a long time that Kosovo actually lacked a functioning government for many, many months. And now elections are happening, that including a representative for the ethnic Serb minority. And that was the issue, a controversial issue for a very long time because the government there was not happy that Srpska lista, so-called the Serb list, which is the dominant Serb party over there, has very close ties to President Vučić and to the Serbian government. And indeed, their policies have been very much in alignment with President Vučić's policies. So that's number one thing. I also do believe that elections are going to be very, very important because of Kosovo's relations with the European Union as well as the United States, because there are still two problems with the EU. There are EU sanctions that are in place, but also recently dialogue with Washington has been suspended. And Kosovo is very much reliant on the West, not only in terms of economy, but also political support. And I do believe that the future of Kosovo will be very much reliant on the West support. So that's something that the government has to work on, how to make relationships better with the EU as well as the United States. And the third thing is, as Russia is taking the lead right now in the UN Security Council this month, Russia made two priorities related to Europe. One is Kosovo, the second is Bosnia and Herzegovina. So we also have to pay attention to that. Speaking of which, even the elections that we are talking right now about, Russia didn't miss an opportunity to add fuel to fire. And Radio Free Europe just recently published even an article about Russian interference over there through media such as RT and Sputnik with very inflammatory texts, trying to polarize the region even further, emphasizing ethnic tensions and trying to add more fuel to fire in terms of potential security threats, because still tensions between Serbia and Kosovo are very high. And just 2 years ago, 19 NATO peacekeepers were injured when Serb protesters were there. So such escalations are not going to fade anytime soon, or at least I don't see, because right now as Putin is negotiating on Ukraine, he needs to distract the West with more tensions. The good news is he didn't succeed in Moldova, and we have to make sure that he's not going to succeed as a next flashpoint in the Western Balkans, both in Kosovo, given that NATO peacekeepers are stationed there, and also in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So these elections are not only important in terms of domestic issues in Kosovo, but they are geopolitically very important.
Yes. Now, last time Belgrade had encouraged ethnic Serbs to boycott the elections. Why was that decision made, and why are they not boycotting the elections this time around?
So they're indeed not boycotting elections because they believe, by having more power, they are going to have access to decision-making process.
How might the outcome of these municipal elections affect Kosovo's stalled dialogue with Serbia?
I have to tell you, I don't believe that the dialogue is going to move into any meaningful direction in terms of sorting out those issues, because especially now when President Vučić has massive protests in his home country, he needs always to have destabilized Kosovo so he can always escalate and then de-escalate and then to position himself as a pillar of stability. Of course, this would not be allowed and possible without the support coming from Moscow. So I have to bring the bad news that I really, really don't see the dialogue is going to move forward. No matter how the government is being formed, because the problem also lies in Belgrade and Vučić seeking for power and trying to distract from his own protests, massive protests that he's facing right now in his home country, especially after the United States imposed sanctions on Nice, which is linked to Russian Gazprom, which is going to probably have massive impact on economy, and people are going to be more and more dissatisfied with the rule by the Vučić government.
And since we're on that topic, in just 2 weeks, it will mark 1 year since the student protests broke out in Serbia over that deadly collapse of the canopy at a railway station in Novi Sad. What's next for these protests and the internal political situation in Serbia?
So I don't think that students are going to stop to protest anytime soon. They are seeking democratic government and democracy in the country. And unlike some older generations, they do not want to leave the country. They want to stay there. They want to have a better future. In order to do that, they don't want to have a corrupt authoritarian government in power. They don't want Serbia to become Belarus 2.0. Having said that, make no mistake, they are not going to stop with protests, no matter how the Serbian government is trying to suppress them, trying to control media, trying to scare people, going after individuals. Undermining human rights, that is not going to scare them. As a matter of fact, President Vučić thought that such protests would stop very soon, but as you mentioned, they have been around for a year, and his government is suffering also in terms of economy, and now especially with Russia issue related to gas, he's going to have even more problems. So for that reason, I don't think, that protests are going to stop anytime soon. It's quite, devastating really to see also how the Serbian government, along with Russian government, have been claiming how this is all Western plotted color revolution, and they're pushing, all those horrible agendas in the information space. But the good news is young Serbs are not falling for such propaganda.
All right. Well, with that, we've run out of time. Ivana Stradner, Research Fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Always pleasure. Thank you.
And that concludes this edition of World News Tonight. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great evening and hope to see you next time. Good night.